Hi, this is Jason from Pre-Veteran. Welcome back to our Pre-Veteran YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you about one of my more personal experiences while in the military, and this is when I was in Japan with language immersion learning Japanese, and how so desperately I wanted to get from where I was at the beginning, which was 0, to being proficient as soon as I could, but I couldn't because there were so many steps I had to take along the way. But that was really challenging. I want to share it with you because it's very analogous to your military transition, and the lessons I learned I want to teach you here I think will help you with your military transition planning. Before we get started, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and then follow us on our LinkedIn company page, and that will be in the comments below. Let's get started. To get things started, let me give you a little bit of context. Going back to 2003, I was selected to be the second ever C-130 exchange pilot to the Japan Air Self-Defense Force. If you're not familiar with exchange positions, this is when both countries' military decide to put company or field grade officers into the other's military. And the reasons are pretty significant but pretty simple. They would like to gain those relationships or have those relationships at that level so that as each individual is promoted and goes up in rank, they have those relationships intact. So when operations or training missions come up where complexities are involved and you need to have an established rapport or relationship with those sitting across the table from you to make easier decisions, that's what that strategic relationship is for. Now that you know that background, going back to 2003, boy, I thought I was hot stuff. Let me tell you. From 1998 to 2003, I had flown, and I was a co-pilot, then a pilot, then an instructor pilot, the normal progression. I had flown in the wars or conflicts Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Very complex mission sets, flying a $30 million aircraft with lots of autonomy on how to do specific operational things. So I was really honestly at the top of my game. So guess what happened in 2003 also? I got married, which was wonderful, and then we moved to Japan when I was selected for that assignment. And we went into our 12-month language immersion program in downtown Tokyo. Prior to going to Japan, I did not know a single word of Japanese outside of Styx's awesome song, Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. Other than that, I didn't know a thing. So we went into Japan with not knowing much at all, if anything, and went into this 12-month language immersion program. So what was interesting about the 12-month language immersion training in downtown Tokyo is our senseis did not speak a single word of English. Nothing. So guess what? The person who felt great about themselves and was at the top of their career, boy, did that confidence erode to 0 in about 3 days. There is so much depth in the story and so many stories to tell. I could bring out several beers right now. This would become a very long video. But I'm going to distill it down to the 3 main lessons that I learned from learning Japanese that are going to be also applicable to you when you're thinking about and planning for your military transition. Lesson number 1. The stress of doing something you've never done before can be overwhelming and debilitating, truly. And I can tell you from my experience with Japanese, and this is an extreme example, I was absolutely overwhelmed and debilitated. I actually was unable to sleep. My brain was teeming with a bunch of different ideas. I really desperately wanted to get from where I was at level 0 to being proficient because I had to speak in the cockpit and fly an aircraft safely. I was very stressed and overwhelmed. And the result of lesson 1 naturally flowed into lesson 2, which is transformation is a process, not an event or action. I don't know if you've learned Japanese or something this complex in your life before, but when you're talking about this requires a transformation. When you go from 0 to a proficiency level of any magnitude, it's going to require you to change, it's going to require you to learn, it's going to require you to do a bunch of different things. And I say this because it's an extreme example learning Japanese, but the transformational element is important because I so desperately wanted to snap my fingers and be where I was to a proficiency level, but I had to go through the process. It is not an event or action. That transformation is a process, and you have to start and you have to continue working at it and iterating, which gets us to the 3rd lesson. Lesson 3 is you need a good model, you need support, and you need time. There's no way to shortcut the process. I would have loved to have shortcut the process, but it was impossible to do so because I needed to learn the steps, the foundational elements, and then I needed to continue training them. So how does this pertain specifically to your military transition? Well, if you think about it, military transition is something you've never done before. So you're going to go through that same type of process that I did in learning Japanese. It's something completely new, and you don't necessarily have the tools or the different foundational elements that you need to learn it. But at the same time, you know that transition is a significant life event. It has to be successful, so you're starting to feel the stress of needing to do that. And then on top of that, you want to be prepared for transition now. And what you don't know is it's going to take time, it's going to take iteration, it's going to take support. And that's what pre-veteran's all about. We know that most of you want to be an employee, and 90% of the people who do leave the military do become employees. 70% of those 90% go into the private sector, and we know that you don't quite have that knowledge in your head right now, which means there's lots of unknown. So we've got the model for you. If you're ready to become an employee, then we suggest you go to our pre-veteran website, go to our courses page, and sign up for our employment prep course, which is coming up soon. If it's not available then, there is a wait list all the time that you could sign up for. If you're new to pre-veteran and haven't heard much about us yet, we encourage you to go to the website and poke around and peruse. But the best way to kind of see what we're all about is to go to the About Us, and then from that pull-down menu, go to the News and Press, and that's where we have our unique content that we post weekly, and you can learn about why we're different than everyone else. Well, that's the end of this week's video. We hope you got something out of my experience in Japan in language immersion in downtown Tokyo and how that is analogous to your military transition. If you have any questions, leave a comment or question below, and we look forward to seeing you next week with our next video. See you then.